Welcome back to Gravity Rush. Now we actually have the real home, the real hub level of the lost children down below in the swirly vortex of nothing.
Neverland, basically. Let's just call it what it is, Neverland, and this game's Peter Pan.
Well,
no,
they
not
do
really. You're
age,
more like
but-
the Wendy, because you don't live there. You're taken in there through magical first.
So everyone is Wendy. This is actually similar to a game that's to a more recent game that I've played, called Smoke and Sacrifice, actually, which sort of takes place in, I guess, a post-apocalyptic world where most of the world is frozen, and there's this big old mechanical tree that provides heat to a small area. And to keep it fueled, they have this sort of quasi-religion set up where certain chosen children are sacrificed, and you play as the mother of one of the sacrificed children. And you actually wind up going into this underground area early on where a lot of children end up sort of... Ooh, excuse me.
To wind up
Makes me
sneezing?
sick just thinking about it.
Well, that's the wrong kind of sick. They wind up being raised as sort of fuel gatherers underground for this tree, I suppose. I haven't played very far into it. It's an indie gathering RPG sort of thing, so it takes a bit of a time commitment, and I haven't had the time or the motivation to really get into it. But it seems to be a fun game.
Oh, look, it's the Ark.
Hatsune Miku? Why? Are you gonna make Vocaloid remixes of Gravity Rush music now, or
Are you a Gravity Rush 2?
Well, she isn't too, so...
Okay, so I don't get the appeal of Vocaloids. I kind of don't.
They're just Android singers.
Yeah, but
There's not much to get.
I don't really like the sound, I guess is a better way to put it. It's just like...
And that I can kind of half understand.
It's very...
That's understandable, but it's also it's that thing where you don't need to get it. You just need to get the fact that someone else gets it. You know.
Yeah,
Well,
but...
okay, then I ask you a question though. What to me? What is the difference between, say, a Vocaloid like Hatsune Miku and, say, the Squid Sisters?
Well, okay. There's actually the Squid Sisters are actually real Japanese singers.
No, they're video
they
game
are
characters, Ted.
John.
Well, Ted, all the voice samples from Vocaloids are from real people.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They're samples. The Squid Sisters, they get people into the booth and have them sing gibberish.
And then alter it and completely to make it sound more.
No,
like the
they
Squids.
don't. They have a live
they do.
recording. They have a live recording of them
They
singing.
have a live. They have a live recording, but then they garble it to make it more artificial.
Yeah, but it sounds more real, okay? You don't understand, man. I don't like how chirpy the
Well, whether you like it or not is entirely your own preference.
Well, you're
but-
saying, okay, well, why I like the Squid Sisters and not the Vocaloids is because
Well,
they
we're
sound...
talking about- we're asking what the difference is.
I'm talking about the difference in terms of sound quality and all that sort of thing. That's my point.
Oh, well, they just sound better because they are.
Oh, okay, I see. Did a Vocaloid kill your grandmother, Ted? You can be honest with me.
Even if she didn't, they would still suck. All right. But yes, Hatsune Miku is a murderer.
Wait, are we doing side quests down
Yep.
here of
Yep.
all places?
Yep.
Man,
Are you locked out of this area after a while, or...
No, it's one of those you can come back later if you really want to, like once you beat the game and stuff.
Do you have to fall down the hole again?
No, you can warp.
Okay, thank God.
the life of a video game protagonist.
That you
Jeez.
just missed the gold by a second. 2 seconds nearly.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
So that was
Does
one.
she ever complain about back problems?
Who?
Cat.
I mean, she
Regarding...
should. She's also 20, so she's a little young for that.
Yeah, there's not many side quests down here. It's a very small actual area. I mean, there's like you can come back here to get gems and again redo the side missions and stuff. But that's about all there is to do here.
Yeah, it's kind of a one and done area. In fact, I'm kind of perplexed that they put any real side quests down here in the first place. Because, I don't know, it just seems like a bad place for it. Like, maybe they put them there out of design obligation, I don't know.
Well, in the kind of open world area, not having having an area where there's no side quests does kind of seem a little weird. I guess another way is that it might allow you to get it more attached to the town. If there's stuff to do in there, I guess is also another thing.
Okay, that would be true if it had any narrative impact. You know, if you were doing side quests for certain characters. But, like, doing the checkpoint races?
But what's the point? What's the purpose of us being down here?
It's also
we were trying to find that lady's letter, John.
Yeah, but it was also a means. It's also a means to get you a decent amount of gems in case you're close to or want to upgrade something.
So it's more of a. So it has more of gameplay significance than it does narrative significance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of see that, but they could do that by just hiding a few like large groups of actual gems in clever locations. On the other hand, a quest where you're destroying Navi. Well, I would like to destroy Navi too, but.
I mean, she's not that bad, honestly.
Navi did nothing wrong.
She's only programmed to really talk to you. Like, I think it's like once in the first 5 minutes once you start the game up, and then really not all that much after that. So her whining isn't...
Compared to a bunch of other helpers and other Zelda games, no, she's nowhere near as bad.
I mean, granted, the only good one is still Midna, but... I mean, Navi's not bad. She's just there.
I'd say Tattle's pretty good.
Navi sticks out because she's one of the earlier and less graceful examples, I want to say, because, well, we hadn't really figured out how to organically put these kind of tutorials in games since they were suddenly so necessary because we were experimenting with all these new three-dimensional
3D
gameplay mechanics that nobody was used to yet, you know? So...
Yeah, it's just more of the, I feel like people who play Ocarina of Time, for what's supposed to be the best game ever made, people overblow the stuff that's only mildly annoying, and then...
yeah. Like, to be fair, I'll take Navi any day of the week over what we do these days, which is like spending the first hour and a half of game walking very slowly and having the game force us to do basic actions so that it's absolutely sure we know how to do them.
Even though it would make far more sense to do that in early 3D games where people weren't used to this stuff.
I think the only people that really overblow it out of proportion, though, are those that grew up with Ocarina of Time since '97, when there was no like definitive way of playing this or that way, and people didn't know how to do this or that, so they spent their time wandering all over the place, and that is when Navi is her most vocal, is when you're wandering for too long without going to your set destination.
Hey, go here, but I want to explore over here. Hey, go here.
Exactly. Or maybe you could just put the fucking game.
The other thing about that is that when 3D gaming was in its infancy, people were inclined to explore literally everywhere.
I don't know why you do that in Ocarina of Time, though, because
it's partly because when 3D was new, people really wanted to see how far they were allowed to explore, because it was that old school mentality where we used to look at the backgrounds of these 2D games and think, I want to go back there and see what's there, you know? Yeah. And 3D games sort of teased us with the ability to sort of do that, except not really. It was kind of a grand illusion.
You go as far as the cardboard trees will take you.
Yeah, there was still an inaccessible background. It was just, you had to experiment to see where that inaccessible background was.
Or in the case of Wind Waker or Breath of the Wild, it just tells you can't go here, go back.
At least in Wind Waker, it's a character that tells you, you know, the king says, yo, don't go that way. Which at least is in the universe, as opposed to just a message popping on screen in Breath of the Wild, which is totally immersion breaking.
A lot of
immersion.
A lot of games in the PS2, GameCube era sort of had slightly clever ways of telling you that you were reaching the boundaries. Like, well, there's the king telling you not to go somewhere, and then there's the old Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter trick of just having something eat you when you cross the boundary and spend too long over there. So,
To me, the worst thing you can do to form a boundary is an invisible wall.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, I think there needs to be at least a force field. Force fields for everything.
force fields.
I mean, at least it's
Spyro did the
something,
force
you
field.
know. Like that's kind of the thing. Like
Yeah.
it's at least I understand as a grown human being, arguably, that video games need to have limits. So,
Yeah.
but I still want those limits to be
Make sense.
Make sense,
Like,
even if it's
yeah.
half-assed, because I know that there's only so much you can do. So I understand.
We never touched on this in the Mass Effect playthrough because I never had a reason to, but whenever you go to one of those sort of semi-lame sandbox planets for side quests, there's this square chunk of the planet that you're allowed to explore, and if you try to go outside that square, well, the game doesn't exactly stop you from trying, but it will tell you you're going outside your mission area. The ship is going to come pick you up if you don't go back, because you have to stay within the range of where the ship's communications let you explore. So.
And if you keep on going, does the game pick you up and drop you off somewhere else?
Yeah. The game sort of. I forget whether it picks you up and drops you off, or just kicks you out of the mission area and forces you to land again. Because I never bothered to try it because it's so telegraphed to you.
It's like a child escaping its playpen.
Well, yeah, the mini map on the side shows you the big glowing red area that says, "Hey, you're not allowed to go over here. Turn your ass around." So way ahead of time that you're leaving the area that the game considers part of the sandbox, so you can turn around and get back on track.
I mean, it is a good thing that the sandbox is a box, because otherwise you just have sand kind of awkwardly covering the rest of the park, and then everybody gets mad at you for playing and making a mess, and
Sand is coarse and it gets everywhere.
Yeah, well, like I say, the game sort of gives you a reason to stay within that border, but then it actually extends its actual border a little distance beyond what the game tells you the border is. So it's not like you're being stopped unceremoniously,
Oh, I crushed that minigame. 1,800 gems.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a lot of gems.
So yeah, you could easily upgrade like a good 3 or 4 things if you do well on these things while you're down here.
I gotta ask, and I haven't really taken a good look at Gravity Rush 2 since I haven't finished the first one yet. Do the gem items look at least a little bit more organic in that game?
Well, I mean, they're much shinier, yes.
Well, I mean, do they feel a little bit more unified with the worlds that you're exploring in-game? Because...
Sort of.
Well, let me put it this way. Okay, when you see, the rings in a Sonic game, the coins in a Mario game, or the gems in... Or the Wumpa Fruit, I should say, in a Crash Bandicoot game, those collectibles sort of fit with the art style,
I mean, it's one of those, do they fit now? If so, then yeah.
It's a little awkward in this game in the sense that it looks a bit indie jank, I want to say. They tried, dear lord, they tried, but there are some things in this game that don't quite mesh with the rest of the game around them, and I just want to know if, in Gravity Rush 2, they got that down better.
I mean, it's a slightly bigger... It's slightly... I mean, not bigger now, but it's slightly brighter game, so there's that at least.
I think it all depends on what exactly it is you're collecting.
I mean, it's the same gems, really, so...
Yeah, and what do the gems represent? Is it currency? Is it...
Functionally, yes.
Yeah.
So actually, here's a question, because I was looking in my Best Buy earlier today, and I saw that Gravity Rush 2 was $20. Do I have to play the first game to understand what's going on in the second one? Because the way you were talking, it's kind of seemed like I wouldn't understand what was going on anyway.
You wouldn't really understand. It doesn't really answer many questions, but you would need to play the first one to know who Cat and Raven and such are.
Okay.
That would be why they re-released Gravity Rush Remastered shortly before Gravity Rush 2 was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sort of wrote themselves into the corner where you need to play the first game to really get it, but then they realized, hey, the first game's kind of not in the best, not in the best venue for most people to get into.
Yeah,
at
it
this
was
point in time.
released on that really obscure handheld system, like the Gizmondo, I think is what it was called, maybe. So yeah, nobody bought that thing, so we might as well release it on a console that people actually own.
But it was on
The
it was on the N-Gage.
Oh
the
yeah, the
Atari
N-Gage.
Lynx. All right, let's try the Atari Lynx next time.
I really have to
forgot-
wonder why people even decided to publish games for like the Atari Lynx when they had to have known it wouldn't do well.
Well, for some companies, there were deals made with the console manufacturers to get games on the system.
There's also a matter you want to have at least something on there, even if that lost just in case for some reason it explodes. You don't want to be late on that bandwagon if it happens.
Also, back then, I don't think game development budgets were quite as ludicrous as they are today. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because now if you want a big title game, it's like a good couple $100 million, especially at launch. Like that's if you like, you can actually kind of see that if you look back at the Switch's launch when people kind of didn't know if it would take off. Like companies who did go for early games on that, they went very cheap. So, like, for example, the best one I can think of right now is Bomberman from Super Bomberman Nar. I love that game, but that was not a financial risk for
It's a cheap
Konami.
Bomberman game.
Yeah, that was not a financial risk for Konami at all. So,
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I just kind of wish the industry didn't rely so heavily on those big expensive projects.
oh, same, because they kill
sort of-
the industry, slowly killing the industry.
I sort of get why they do, but when you set yourself up with that sort of expectation for mass appeal, without a real mainstream alternative, and I feel like certain game companies have done a good job of showing that you can have that kind of large financial success without necessarily going in that specific direction for it. So.
Does that tree have a face, or am I just imagining things?
You're just imagining things.
Okay.
I kind of admire Ninja Theory's. I think it was Ninja Theory, right? Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Is that a Ninja Theory thing?
Yeah.
It smells quacks and acts like a Ninja Theory thing, so I'm just gonna proceed as if it is one. The whole a large part of the marketing push for that was that they wanted to produce at AAA quality at a lower price, so they were trying to sort of pioneer this sort of shorter, expensive project where the game's length sort of made up for the production value in terms of budget. So, a cheaper, shorter game that's high in production value, but not necessarily the big $60, 40-hour adventure that people want to see so much these days.
Did that end up doing well?
I don't know. I mean, I heard good things about it critically. I haven't looked up the sales, though.
Yeah, because I'm totally down for shorter games at a lower price. Like, honestly, it means people are able to play something new more often, which I think is kind of what everybody wants, And you don't need 30 million hour long games all the time as well.
I mean, from my experience, it's a pretty good game. The combat's a bit simplistic, but the game doesn't outstay its welcome, so it can be a bit simplistic. The story is interesting, a little overbearing in its it's a story about someone who's like going through some major mental problems, but it's framed as this adventure into the underworld to save someone who's deceased. It's a little hard to explain, but you hear voices in the background a lot of the time, and that's your big key sign that this character is not all right in the head, So,
Are we teaming up with Shadow to fight this monster?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay. This was
So we
probably
can protect
important.
that thing called the Ark.
I don't know. All I'm seeing right now is that giant skeleton worm monster from Beyond Good and Evil.
I mean, kinda, yeah.
Well, this is obviously more difficult, but in that case, you just sort of followed it around, holding down the fire button until it gave up.
A little bit. This is just whack it in the head and hope it follows you to the trap area. There it goes.
Oh. What is this, a giant exploding fruit?
It all starts with this. A rock containing the ultimate...
Thunk.
I mean, what?
Hey, wait, that's not his speed. He must be using gravity to warp.
Another hit like that should drive it off, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we won't,
Not even
we
kill
don't
it,
finish
just
it.
drive it off.
Yeah, we
Just
don't
go
finish.
away.
We don't finish it now.
Like, I mean, nobody really wants to. If we don't have to, then why should we?
Well, more like there's a power-up reason we can't finish it now.
Does the power of the dive kick fluctuate with how far you start the kick? Or
No.
is it the same damage?
It's the same damage.
Okay.
Well, that's a bit disappointing, to be
Well,
honest.
you can upgrade the power of it, but
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
like, if distance did indeed,
I mean
have a
that'd
bearing on
be
damage.
that'd be
That-
cool, but at the same time, you'd make it so it'd be more worthwhile to go really far away, and then you could miss and blah de blah.
Yeah, it's also, like,
You make up for that by giving the character more close range options, so that you can change your approach on the fly based on how close you are to the enemy. You know, some variety in your attack patterns is always good for gameplay variety.
I'm just gonna mention, though, that if I knew that if I went really far away and then dive kicked and that did a lot of damage, I would definitely run far away and then dive kick constantly, and that would be the only way I would fight things. And it would take hours to beat bosses, but I would definitely do
Well,
it.
when you work with this kind of distance mechanics, you also want to pay attention to environmental design in games that have them, because like there will be certain areas within the game where it's harder to get far away from an enemy, you know. Or if there's a lot of enemies, you might have problems positioning yourself because you're dealing with a crowd. So
I'd make it work.